So to kind of switch gears, I noticed in your article what I thought was really nice was you had some great imagery. Did you find those images from the collection?
There are a couple images associated with the piece, and they're all from the collection.
Okay.
And what I really tried to do is there's a mix of photographs and some flyers. And the flyers are printed material either produced by VEP itself or by organizations that VEP funded for their projects. And so I find it's really a help to get people interested, to have an exciting image or an interesting image. And I really wanted to use a mix of, a photographic image with, what we would consider to be a manuscript piece. Having the flyer in there because they both tell stories in different ways about the organization or about the people within it.
So what are we looking at here?
This is a box of records from VEP. It's in the series audiovisual materials. So we've collected when we put everything together as a collection. We create these great big categories of where things go, and one is audiovisual materials. It has a lot of standard stuff you would expect, like audio cassettes and film and photographs, but it also has a lot of printed things like posters. And posters were definitely a big part of what VEP did. Not only did they produce images, but the organizations they funded produced their own. And this is a poster from one of their major campaigns. It says, "Hands that pick cotton can now pick our public officials. Register and vote." This was a huge VEP campaign. It was their slogan for a long time. And I showed one of these once to Congressman Lewis, and he actually mentioned that he has the original artwork for this campaign at his house.
This is very powerful.
I think it's a wonderful image. It's definitely something we've used when we talk about the collection. Because it is, it's really a great callback to sort of civil rights and what it means. The idea that during the civil rights movement there were people that were actually had been slaves participating, and all the great strides they had made. So I think it's a great piece.
Direct descendants of enslaved people. That's powerful, and it's right here in Atlanta.
Yes, it's got the address on it. Their offices are on Fairley Street,
right downtown.
Right downtown. So I love that we know where they were, and that still means something.
And then this is another one.
This is another actual VEP produced piece, and it does say, "If not for you, at least for my sake, please vote." It again has the little VEP stamp with their address on it. And it's just a great, it's a really sad image, but it's also sort of sweet. And it does credit a photographer, which is a great thing in archives. Sometimes we lose track of who did what. So we know who the artist is, which is excellent.
And the child is saying, "For God's sake, vote."
For God's sake, vote is what the sign says.
Vote for the children. Yep. Very strong. Very strong movement.
Absolutely.
So I think what's nice about the article is you're able to, at one's fingertips, show the world, because it's online, you're able to share information about Voter Education Project, but also share information about the collection and the kinds of materials, just exposing people to what archives are and the kinds of materials that you find there. So I thought that was really nice.
Thank you. I think the last line of the article is, "The records of the Voter Education Project are at AUC Woodruff."
Very glad for that. So what kinds of other projects do you have coming up?
We've shifted gears in the archives a little with what we've been working on, and a collection that we have coming up that will soon be open for research is the Tupac Amaru Shakur collection. They are the manuscripts of rapper Tupac Shakur. A surprise to me, and I think a lot of other people, is that a lot of it is handwritten manuscripts of his, either of song lyrics or poetry, screenplays, short stories. Some of it's just notes. But he wrote everything down by hand, and we have a lot of it, and it's really wonderful. So I've been, my next steps are kind of to work on pieces that will promote the Shakur collection.
Sure.
I'm going to present a paper on the collection at the Society of American Archivists annual meeting, and that's already been accepted to be turned into a little write-up. And then I hope to turn that into something even bigger. It's an amazing collection. It's one of the first large archival collections of hip-hop artists in the country. There are a few others, and not to disparage them, but Tupac is certainly the biggest name I know of. I mean, he's definitely a rap icon.
Right.
And there's no other collection like it anywhere in the U.S., and it's very special, and we're very, very pleased to have it here.
Yes, absolutely. So what I like that you bring to the table is you are writing about content, but you're also writing about archives. So you mentioned that you would hopefully be publishing soon on the Tupac Shakur collection records. Can you talk about, is that particular article or the things that you will be writing, does it come from an archival standpoint? Is it more about the processing work that you do, the organizational work, or is it mostly about content, or both?
It's really both.
Okay.
One thing I do talk about the processing some, because having worked on two major celebrity papers, I'm counting Dr. King and I'm counting Tupac. They're different kinds of celebrities, but they are celebrities, and well, they're both icons, and it's just they're icons of a different kind, but they're legendary figures in their fields. But having worked on those two collections, there are some challenges specific to the records of people with that kind of international status.
Right.
And so when I'm writing about Tupac, I'm writing about those kinds of things. But what I'm also writing about, and I didn't realize this was something I was going to write about until I sat down and started writing, is that I'm also writing about the importance of collecting hip-hop. And, and that doesn't just mean, the handwritten lyrics of a rapper, because especially in this day and age, there may be a lot of people not writing things down by hand anymore. But hip-hop is such a large part of American culture now, it's time to start seeing the early years of it in our collecting focus as a profession.
Yes.
All the way across archives, and that's not just this country, but it's everywhere. We need to see the Eminem papers promised to someplace in Detroit, and Jay-Z promised to someplace in New York, and it's time to start seeing that from our profession. I think hip-hop is a very serious and integral part of what it means to be an American now, especially from a certain age younger. It's a personal investment to me. I was a senior the year Tupac passed away, and so his kind of heyday was when I was a teenager, and it was the music I listened to. I know you're a Biggie fan, but for me, it is a really personal collection, and it's a personal matter to me that archivists start to seriously look at what we can provide the hip-hop community in terms of preserving their legacy.
And for the record, we're the same age, so I love Tupac. Well, thank you. Were you able to use any other sources in the library for your work, whether it's the Voter Education Project or the Tupac Shakur papers? We know you used the collection. Did you have to use some of the other secondary?
Absolutely. Really what's helped me is the databases. Having access to those databases is essential because it's an important step when you come up with a topic to write on, is to do a survey of what's already out there. With the Voter Education Project, it didn't take me long to find out that it hadn't been written about very much. But, I knew it came from the Southern Regional Council. I know a lot of the big players like John Lewis, so I was able to look for resources on them. But the databases are especially important because just because something isn't written in a book doesn't mean it wasn't published in a journal somewhere. Journals are an incredibly important resource for academic research.
Right.
Because not everything gets collected and published, and especially now that so many journals are going electronic,
right.
You may never find a paper copy. That's definitely my biggest first step, is to kind of assess what's out there, especially trying to find a historiography of civil rights, a historiography of hip-hop. Those kinds of things really help me to look at, what's the background here. And it's especially important, and I think that having access to journals helps this, and it's been really important in writing about hip-hop music, is to delineate the difference between a scholarly resource and a popular one. Right. And a lot of the biographies on Tupac aren't what we would call a critical biography. Right. And so they may have dates and times, and that's very, very helpful. There's not as much interpretation of kind of his work and right. who he is in American culture. Right. And so it's important to kind of figure out what are those scholarly resources that talk about whatever your topic is, and go to those first and get a good feeling of what other people have written.
In the Archives Research Center, we get a lot of researchers from far and wide who are interested in topics like civil rights, human rights. Why might this collection be relevant to current Atlanta University Center students who were not directly impacted? Well, they were impacted, but sure. were not involved in the civil rights movement of the 60s.
There's a couple reasons. A VEP, I think, one of the reasons it's such a great organization is it did last for so long. Mm-hmm. It was in the 1990s that it finally folded, and that was from a lack of funding, sadly. But their initiatives really changed over time. Mm-hmm. And they, especially, for example, in the 1980s, VEP had its first female executive director, and she really turned the organization toward women. And women were severely underrepresented in the voting public. Right. And so she actually partnered with AKA sorority right. to create a Southwide but also nationwide campaign to encourage African American women to vote. So I think, we have a large number of AKAs here on our campuses. So I think it remains a collection that can be relevant for students today because it is a part of more recent history. And it's a part of organizations that are nationwide organizations who had initiatives with VEP that partnered with them and found this to be an important organization that had important lessons. I think it's also important because the students we have here today are hopefully our next generation of scholars. Mm-hmm. And I did mention it before, but there's a real problem in the writing, in the written history of the civil rights movement, that it starts with Brown versus Board of Education and it ends when Dr. King dies. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that the roots of the civil rights movement were far earlier than 1954, and they have grown far beyond 1968. And it is our faculty today and our students today who are hopefully the people that are going to share that history, because those initiatives that kept going on and kept going on and kept going on, they weren't necessarily related to laws the way the laws that were the results of the 60s civil rights movement. There's so much more after that, and a lot of it is about grassroots. A lot of it is about public awareness. And I think those are still lessons that need to be learned and lessons that need to be shared.
Great. This is all very wonderful, excited, and glad that the public can see your article.
Absolutely.
So again, it's on the New Georgia Encyclopedia.
The New Georgia Encyclopedia, yeah. And the title is Voter Education Project.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations, and wish you the best of luck with future publications.
Thank you.